In this short video, we're going to talk about trading Euro Stoxx 50 futures contracts during Asian hours. That is, trading Europe before Europe wakes up. When you look up the trading hours of the Euro Stoxx 50 futures contracts, the hours quite simply start at 1:15 a.m. Frankfurt time, and they go all the way to 10 p.m. Frankfurt time. This changes a little bit in the summertime, where the contracts start trading at 2:15 a.m. Frankfurt time and finish trading again at 10 p.m. summertime. Now, what difference does this make to an investor based in Asia? If you're looking at Singapore, Hong Kong, Shanghai time zone, the starting time at whether it's summer or winter is 8:15 a.m. So the only difference between the two is that Frankfurt practices daylight savings time in the summertime, and many Asian time zones do not. So just think of it, if you are based in Singapore, Hong Kong, Shanghai, these contracts start trading at 8:15 a.m. Singapore time, and they finish trading all the way at 10 p.m. Frankfurt time, which is when the market closes. European cash markets generally open at 9 a.m. Frankfurt time. So this is useful to Asian hours traders to get in before the equivalent of 3 to 4 p.m. Singapore time, before the end of the Singapore trading day, but before European markets really begin. So 10 p.m. Frankfurt time corresponds to 4 p.m. New York time. That was the end of the trading day that I was mentioning earlier. What does the liquidity look like when we're looking at during Asian hours? So this is a snapshot I took on the 29th of November, 2023 at 5:15 a.m. Frankfurt time. So if you add 7 hours, this was around 12:50 p.m. So just after lunchtime or middle of lunchtime in Singapore, Hong Kong, or Shanghai. And you'll see here, there's pretty good liquidity on these contracts. Level 2 market depth, you've got over 100 contracts on the top of book and thousands of contracts within only a few points of difference, even during these Asian hours. If we were to compare this to the depth of market we get right after the cash market open, so this is 5 minutes after 9 a.m. Frankfurt time, we see a little bit more. We see on the bid side of this level 2 screen, over 1,000 contracts available each at 43.58, 43.57, but not really a huge difference. The short answer here is that even during Asian hours, the Euro Stoxx 50 futures contracts are very, very liquid and have good deep books. What did the hourly chart look like that morning? In other words, was there actually any movements that a trader during Asian hours could have taken advantage of? This, again, was just a single snapshot taken on that one morning up until 9:05 a.m. Frankfurt time. Again, starting at 1:30 a.m. Frankfurt time, we see the contracts move from just below 43.50 to almost around 43.60 and then came back down. So there is a little bit of movement. I don't really remember what the news was that morning, but on any given morning, when something happens in Asia and it's likely to affect European markets, trading these contracts during Asian hours is one way to capture that market. Now, so far, I've mentioned the Euro Stoxx 50 as a contract that you can trade during Asian hours, but there are actually several other Eurex traded contracts which have Asian hours trading. In the Euro Stoxx family, you have the Euro Stoxx Banks Index, which focuses specifically on the banks in the Eurozone. Then you have the broader Stoxx 600. This is a broader benchmark of European stocks, including those based in the UK and in Switzerland, which do not trade in euros, but the Stoxx 600 does trade during Asian hours. And of course, you have the volatility benchmark, the VSTOXX, sometimes considered the European version of the VIX index. There's also the DAX 40, so the flagship benchmark of the German stock market index, also trades during European hours. For those interested in fixed income or interest rates, the bond benchmarks, namely the German Buchsel, Bund, Bobl, and Schatz, these are the bond futures for ultra long, medium, and short terms, also trade during Asian hours. What do the volumes look like quarter by quarter, and which of these contracts do I mention actually have more volume? This chart shows you a very brief breakdown of how much of that volume goes into the Stoxx contracts versus DAX versus VSTOXX, MSCI, Bund, Bobl, Schatz, Buchsel. As you can see here, the liquidity example that I showed earlier on Euro Stoxx is not alone to Euro Stoxx. The Euro Stoxx 50 is one of the most liquid futures contracts. You can also get good liquidity during Asian hours on Buchsel, Bund, Bobl, Schatz, VSTOXX, and these other contracts mentioned here. If we were to break it down by a specific time, if we were to look at 1:15 a.m. to 3 a.m. Central European summer time, or 8:15 to 9 a.m. Singapore time. So that's the Singapore morning, but very, very early, well before the European market opens. There is still some volume even in those hours, but not as much as you get a little bit later from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. Frankfurt time. That's 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Singapore time. Then once you get to the Singapore afternoon, 1 to 2 p.m. Singapore time, just before European market open, the volume is a little bit less, given that that's 1 hour versus the previous window of 4 hours. But the short answer here is you can get pretty good liquidity on these contracts pretty much any time from 8:15 a.m. Singapore time all the way up until the market opens at 9 a.m. Frankfurt time. So that's been our short video explaining Asian hours trading of Eurex futures contracts, including Euro Stoxx 50 and several others. Join us in the next video when we're going to be talking about micro versus full-size Euro Stoxx futures.